But anyways, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, because it's still June and we haven't wrapped through Pride Month yet. Celebrations to all of y'all, and I hope you guys are feeling at least a little bit more comfortable this year, with everything in mind. You know, not including the more traditional, more southern states who are still a little bit stubborn, but you know, we're working on that with time, without a doubt. Welcome to episode 53 of the Anatomy Crosscast, and just a quick shout out to Kieran, right? Or Kieran, right? I forgot. I'm so sorry. Okay, so Kieran, shout out to Kieran for providing this episode its intro, which absolutely fantastic. And you know, he did a little editing and all that, incorporating the logo. Fucking mint, bro. That's what we love to see.
Glad you like it, man.
Yeah, dude, it's great. And amongst all of the intros that we've had where other vocalists have played their part, per se, offered their vocals, and even edited some shit in, recorded a fancy video, it's always very, very awesome to at least have that level of collaboration until Blind Without Our Failures decides to hire on its first couple features, which should be fun nonetheless. Brief shout out to my band. The only song still out is Error as of Yule last year, and we were working on our next couple songs for sure. We're trying to get a whole bunch of roadmap together, and the EP, that's all I'm gonna say, should be out, should be continued to work on, and my hope is to get it released by the end of this year. If not this year, definitely next year, because I'm done fucking waiting. And most of the lyrical content on the EP will kind of allude to that as well. Just like, fuck it, I'm at least getting something out, even if it's weird, even if people don't like it, raw. But enough about me, enough about my projects. And I'm glad I got the ranting out concerning the weather before we started recording, because that would have been a whole little excerpt per se. But tonight we are hosting a very, very cool, rising, ascending slamming deathcore project that, with my front to back sessions and all of my previous reactions, I've easily said could be associated with the Downtuned Productions crew, which is like Nithful, Abhorrent Abomination, all of these other various pretty culty with the imagery, but nonetheless slamming deathcore projects that are, you know, you guys have probably heard of Nithful, you guys have probably heard of Abhorrent Abomination, and if you haven't, I would recommend them immediately, because these are really good people. I'm like pretty close friends with all of them. So yeah, with my first impression, I'm like, these guys aren't associated with this group, but okay, cool, they're doing their own thing. They're about to go on a tour to promote the new album, Testimony, their new album, which was absolutely fantastic. And I just have yet to upload the front to back session for that, just a listening session and then a pretty transparent critique at the very end. But this band is going places. I know it is. And therefore, we want to get in early. We want to get in early on the promo, getting to know these guys before they become like Signs of the Swarm huge and are like touring around the world, touring with all these other amazing projects like our buddies possibly in Worm Shepherd, anybody in the Ignite the Church algorithm like Awaken Providence, maybe even Lorna Shore. I can see that fucking happening one day. But until then, that's all in the future, man. That's all in the future. We have to ground a little bit. Let's bring it back to the present. And again, it's the 23rd of June. It's a Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. Welcome to
Friday.
Welcome to the weekend. And we're gonna spend some time. We're gonna pluck and kind of rob these guys of their time per se. Tell their stories as musicians, and then hopefully later in session we will be lyrically dissecting their debut full-length effort, that being Testimony. Gorgeous, evil album cover, plenty of amazing features. Most of them we've had on the podcast, which is even cool. Like, so badass. So starting off, I don't know if you gentlemen have had the opportunity to check out any of the previous episodes. We are now up to 52. After all, this is 53. But if you haven't, that's completely fine. I won't get too, you know, I won't get too gnarly or like too grumpy about it, because that is 52 episodes and each of them could be from an hour to 3 hours long. But basically here on the Anatomy Crosscast, recently rebranded to not compete with an actual lobotomy podcast called the Anatomy Podcast, we have the first section for the people, right? We kind of turn this into a documentary podcast. That way you guys can tell everything you feel is relevant to your story as far as being a musician, or maybe even some early forks in the road where you were hesitant about being a musician. Maybe you had a separate passion. Maybe you have these astounding careers outside of being a musician that you might want to talk about. This is your time, right? And then in the second half, more or less, we'll be pretending, right? We'll have a imaginary scenario that I'm confronting you, well, not confronting, but I'm meeting you guys in person. I'm in line for the merch. I'm dripping in sweat from moshing in the pit. And I approach you guys and kind of come out of left field with like, how did you guys decide the band name? Or like, what the fuck, like slamming deathcore? What does that mean? You know what I mean? And we'll be talking about all of that in the second half, basically as if you two were one person, that one person being Heirs of Humanity, for lack of a better term or lack of a better explanation. So, for starters, now let's go ahead and provide kind of an elementary level introduction for the both of you. Basically, imagine you're getting up in class and like, you know, it's the beginning of the semester, so you're like, okay, go ahead and stand up, tell us your name, what do you do for a living, you know, is everything good at home, like that type of shit. But maybe not the third part, because that's pretty personal, that's pretty deep dive shit. So yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself. What do you do for Heirs of Humanity? And we'll go ahead and proceed from that point.
You go first.
Sounds good. I'm Kieran, and I'm the vocalist of Heirs of Humanity.
Badass.
I am Dane. I am the drummer of Heirs of Humanity. We are missing our guitarist today, unfortunately, because he lives about 2.5 hours away from here. But he's here in spirit.
Yes, here in spirit. Shout out to you, buddy. Wish you were here, but also
shout out to Big Wags.
And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if I remember correctly, like we had an initial date, right? We had a first date in which everybody was supposed to be together, but unfortunately, whatever happened, I was like, wait a minute, I thought we were on for 4 p.m. tonight or some shit. And y'all are, wait, 10 a.m., bro. Like, what's going on? So there was a miscommunication, and I mean, I have a feeling that if we were able to do that session instead, we probably would have had all three together. But the way I see it, people, the way I see it, that means there will be a sequel episode with everybody in the future, and that'll be pretty badass too. So boom, bada bang, baby. But thank you for introducing yourselves in a kind of elementary fashion. That way it's not too hard for most kids to digest. But now we're going to go like David Attenborough on your ass, okay? We're going to go National Geographic, History Channel, whatever you want to, whichever example you want to pluck from mainstream American media, right? So whoever wants to start first, go ahead and go from the very beginning. We're looking to learn your story. Maybe not like, you know, I was born this day, this year in a small city, but you know, if you want to, fucking go ahead, because this is your time to shine. This is your time to basically provide your audience more insight upon who you are. And boom, yeah, there you go. Like freaking Kieran, the vocalist of Heirs of Humanity. He's a pretty ruthless animal, and he chooses, you know, that type of shit. So whoever wants to go first, go ahead and take it away. I'm gonna crack open a cold one, a good old Mountain Dew hard seltzer, and let's go ahead and get nice and comfy, bro. Let's go ahead and get nice and comfy.
Let's do it.
All right, you go first, Kieran.
Sounds good. Heirs of Humanity started during the pandemic. I was always a fan of metal, and I've always gone to live shows. I've always gone to local shows, big shows, but I always wanted to start a band, but I just never had like the people around me to do it. I didn't really network when I was in, you know, freshman year of high school.
I mean, who does?
So just was always a fan. And then I've the band Dead Awake.
Yes.
I'm
Homies.
everyone in the band now, we're like pretty much best friends with Dylan, their vocalist, but I go way, way back with Dylan, even before the music stuff. And I was always a fan of Dead Awake, and when they would ever play local shows in anywhere in Wisconsin, I was always there. So growing up around them and seeing that, I just wanted to start a band. During the pandemic, DJ, the vocalist, was just like, we were hanging out, and he's just like, dude, just fucking do it.
Just fucking do it. Yeah.
Do it. I don't know why that I was just like having such anxiety, like, damn, I have this cool band name in my head, Heirs of Humanity. But like, I feel like if I don't make this Instagram page now, someone's gonna take my band out of it. I don't know why. I just need to hurry up and do it. But I don't know why I'm not doing it. I don't know. And then DJ's like, dude, just do it. I'm like,
Just
that
do
day
it.
we sat in the living room, you sat with me, I created the band page. No music in mind, no people in mind. I'm like, I'm making this band called Heirs of Humanity. And I had like these guitar riffs in my head. I would like to do covers of like old Signs of the Swarm, Suicide Silence, stuff like that.
Gotta do your homework.
Yeah. So I had all these riffs in my head, and I just didn't. To this day, I'm very ignorant in recording. I can do the basics, but I leave that to Big Boy Tyler in our band. I'm not
Same here, bud.
how to do any of that stuff. So I met Stacy, Stacy Smear in Green Bay. He's a producer here, and met him via Facebook. So we got together. I kind of told him my ideas in my head, what I had going on. And he was like, okay. And I didn't know when we came to drums even. Again, another point, I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea with drum. I had something in my head. I'm like, I don't know how we're going to record these drums. I don't have a drum set. He's like, oh, we can do it all on the laptop. I'm like, let's go. I'm like, come on now. So put these ideas just down. But at that time too, around that time, I just flew back from Denver, ironically, went to a Signs of the Swarm show in Chicago. When I landed in Chicago, was at the show, I had a good time, but then I posted about the show. Signs of the Swarm reposted my post, and then this guy just randomly commented on my post, was like, yo, I was there, that's me in the photo. And I'm like, no shit. We just started talking about music. Didn't talk to him at the show, just talked to him after the show via Instagram after this whole debacle. And then he lived in New Mexico. His name is James. He's the original vocalist. So I told him about my idea, and I was like, I don't think this is going to go anywhere like live sets or anything like that. So let's just do like an internet thing. And he's like, sure. So he just wanted to do the vocal parts from New Mexico, where he lived at the time.
Right.
So I had like weird night terrors around that time, and just like weird shit going on. So I just had like these lyrical ideas, didn't know how to put it to the instrumentals that Stacy and I had came up with. But I just told him these ideas of just shit that was going on with me, and he kind of just did his thing and made it perfect to a T, in my opinion, of how I was feeling, like how if I had the ability to write it at that time and the confidence to, how I would have put it. So he recorded that from New Mexico. Things kind of started looking really good, even though it was like an internet thing. We had people reaching out to play live shows, but they didn't understand that James was New Mexico and I was in Wisconsin.
And didn't have a drummer.
And we didn't have a drummer. So we had these ideas of making an album, and just like the idea of, fuck it. I was living in a house and I had an extra bedroom. And I told James and his wife, Kier, that they could fly to Wisconsin and move with me, and just live with me, and we can just get music things going, play live shows. Never been to Wisconsin before, just never met them before in real life. Just always talked via internet. Like, just let's make the move and let's do it, dive right in. So that ended up happening. And then shortly after that, we met this guy shortly before our first live show, St. Patrick's Day, 2020 or 2021?
2021.
2021. That's when Dane came into the mix.
Yeah, so I joined the band about 2 years ago. I was a student at University of Wisconsin Oshkosh studying music composition and applied percussion, stuff like that. And it It was like right after COVID, and I had like been in like projects before and stuff like in late high school and like early college. Then COVID happened, all that shit got screwed up, and I was just like, damn, like everyone like as a music major, like being a drummer in a metal band is not the route that you go after getting a music degree. Like there's all like getting to grad school and then just teaching it and stuff like that. And I was like, I gotta like figure this shit out so I actually have something to do that I want to do after school.
Seriously.
So I went on Instagram and I went on hashtag drummers wanted and like metal Wisconsin and just scrolled and I found a band that was like, we're looking for a drummer for our deathcore band. And I was like, all right, I'll hit them up. They're out of Green Bay. That's about an hour and a half away from my school. And I hit them up and then they were like, yeah, if you want to come like just like learn our EP or whatever and then come over and jam. And so I did that. And about like 2 weeks later, I just came in and hung out and we ran through the set and they seemed like nice guys. They seemed
I'm an all right guy.
Yeah. Seemed like good father figures. Kieran's pushing 40 at the I was a couple years younger than them, and so I felt like I needed like they had this shit figured out, and I think I needed that. I think I didn't have the intuition or drive to like start my own shit, and I was just looking for like someone I could drum for that knew what they were doing and had a plan. And I also got along with them so great, and so yeah, then it just pretty much went from there. I had like the very academic like drum knowledge from going to school and stuff, but also metal was how I got into music in high school. And I then like drumming for deathcore is definitely like forget all that shit, just like fucking go fast and like be shit, you know, because I was used to playing in the jazz band in college and like being very delicate and tasteful, and then like playing for these guys, it's like I can make the stank face and just go crazy and hit shit hard. So yeah.
No, it's badass.
Watching Dane live is awesome. He beat the shit out of his kit. It is awesome.
I'm sure, bro. I'm sure.
Like mid-set, I'll turn around and watch him. It's crazy.
No, that's the best thing ever. Is like, okay, so with Kieran, right? You were like more or less in my situation now, where you kind of got into networking late, right? And for me, it was like the YouTube channel, and I've kind of just built a personality. I mean, shit, I'm networking right now. I'm talking to you guys. I mean, also I love the music, but it's like, you got to make those connections. You got to connect with as many bands as possible. And for me, I've gone as far as like connecting with bands around the world, which has been like really fun. Like I have I have buddies over in Malaysia and Indonesia, even Japan, bro. Freaking John Robert C of Crystal Lake, bro. Me and him are in regular contact right now, which is fucking awesome. Dang. And it's all because like you're hesitant at first, and especially when you're in high school, just kind of rewinding back to what Kieran was talking about. It's like when you're in high school, man, you don't really, you have a passion, you have a drive, you have ambition, you want to like put things to paper, right? And especially when you're wanting to be in a metal band. But at the end of the day, when I don't know, Kieran, if you've had any experience with like playing guitar, playing drums, or even some beginner guitar classes or some shit like that. But I know that at least for me back in high school, even with beginning and intermediate guitar, I think the Mountain Dew's kicking in. Even with those classes in mind and that experience, it was more or less my social walls not being there because of ADHD or whatever the fuck people want to say. I don't care. It's like it was more or less about the people that I was reaching out to and how good I was with talking with people, how integrated over time I became with social media because I was considerably sheltered and all this other shit. So it's like social media wasn't really a thing until I got into high school and until my grandma happened to give me an iPhone 5 or 6 for free, which I fucking destroyed that thing because you're a kid, right? You're not really thinking. You're not really keeping in consideration some of the things around you. Like you're trying to learn more about the world, but you don't know shit compared to even someone who's fresh out of high school, or maybe someone who is like actually scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to survive whilst also going to school. There are a whole bunch of different variables that play into it. But ultimately kind of suffocating it to what we're talking about, right? Networking is the first thing, and then, like you said, you were wanting to do the covers for Signs of the Swarm or these other bands that inspired you. You were getting in contact with bands coming through that happened to be in the Chicago/Wisconsin scene. And that's really how it starts, is you make buddies, you get in touch with bands, and then you just continue doing that. They introduce you to other bands, those bands introduce you to other bands. And sooner or later, you have this massive cobweb of people that you happen to be associated with, or that you went to a local show to see once, and you're like, these guys were pretty fucking cool. That's how it starts, man. So at the very least, you know, I don't know if you did any like guitar classes or any music classes in high school, Kieran, but like, even when you're not doing that, networking now with technology, social media and everything, that's just as important, because sometimes the instrumentalists, right, the musicians per se in the band, it's like sometimes they don't want to fucking talk to people, bro. They're obsessed with learning how to sweep pick like Adam D'Amico or whatever. So more or less, it's great to have an anchor who's willing to like reach out to people and continue making an even messier cobweb. But with that in mind, it's like, definitely it's important to network, but it's also important to do your homework. That's really how it all starts. Without that, you have absolutely nothing. You have chicken scratch logos on note paper, and you're like, Heirs of Humanity sounds fucking sick, dude. But then, you know, if you don't push any farther than that, then, well, you don't exactly have testimony. You don't exactly have a full length in your hands, which, like, bravo. Like, absolutely phenomenal album. Definitely hope to see those songs played opening, or even, you know, co-headlining with other greats in the scene like Wretched Tongues, or even Worm Shepherd, as I mentioned before. There's so many bands every day that I'm getting introduced to. It's insane. So if anything, I definitely want to dig a little bit more, just a little bit more, unless you guys are not really wanting to go that personal with yourselves. And as early as possible, basically, Kieran, if you're willing to kind of tell me how you ended up getting into vocals. Obviously, we learned about how you networked and how you got associated with the scene. Maybe all the people that you know now that you're associated with, but how did it all start for you?
2 years ago.
No way.
I was always, again, I started off being just like a metal fan.
Right.
Going to shows, everyone's in there, like, at least me personally, maybe other people can connect to it, but listening to a song that I just fucking love, Night Crawlers by Signs of the Swarm, in my car, work, practicing, just like wanting to sound, you know, how you're supposed to.
Yes.
Like, I've always done that, but again, I didn't at the time. I didn't have the drive and or the confidence,
right,
to want to progress. So even when the band started, I played the guitar. Like, I didn't do any vocals. That was all James.
Okay, cool. So you do have a little bit of experience with guitar playing.
Yeah, for the entire EP, I just did the guitar. I didn't do any of the vocal on the EP.
Shit.
That was all James, our original vocalist.
Cool.
Wait, can I say something? I don't want to.
No.
So I didn't know Kieran could ever do vocals when I started the band. I thought James was the vocal guy and Kieran was just the guitarist. And then shit happened, and James was like, all right, bad news, guys. Like, I pretty much have to move to like New Mexico. Like, I got a family going. And then like Kieran just texted me. He was like, so like, I can just do vocals and we can just get a guitarist. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't know you could do that. I just thought we were fucked. I was like, all right, game over. I guess I got to go on #drummers wanted again. And just find someone else.
You're like, game over, like, bro. We're done.
Yeah, I can just, we were like, it'll probably be easier to find guitarist than it is to find like a vocalist, and like especially like being like a front guy, or like, you know, I feel like finding a vocalist when you already have shit out is a lot harder, because then like they have to be like the head man and like the front guy, and like since Kieran's already in the band, and apparently he already knew how to do all that shit. I had no idea he could do that. We just like rehearsed it. And then so so I was pretty much just supporting my guy. I did not know he could do that shit at all. And then he was just like, yeah, I can do the vocals as well. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. I didn't know I could do it myself. James, it was just a shitty situation because we were renting at the time, but he moved in with me, but I had an extra bedroom. It's a 2-bedroom house. But just the landlord sold the house. It was a good time for him to sell the house. Don't hate on it at all. He made a lot of money, I guess. So just the other people wanted to move into the house who were buying the house. So just a shitty situation. And James and Kira had a kid on the way. So it was easier and more comfortable for them to move back to New Mexico. And in the process, we were just finishing up the album. James's vocals were originally on Testimony, but we went back and did my vocals.
Re-recorded, right?
Yeah, just to make the whole transition smooth, and we had the time to kind of make things go smoothly and finding a fit. But it was just like a shit situation, but it worked out for them because just being closer to family in New Mexico when you're having a kid, obviously is best.
It's complicated,
I would do the same thing. So we had a show coming up, a festival that we booked already before, like a year in advance even. And I was just like, damn. I'm the type of person, like when I say like I'm gonna do something at this time, like we'll be there. Like I would never want to be the band and be like, we're gonna have to cancel the show or whatever. Just even be like a regular life that has to like cancel. So I was like, we have to make it work. So we got a fill-in guitar player. And I'm just like, everything I've been doing in the car, like I hope it pays off, but like this is the festival. It was a festival, so like this is, I'm either gonna suck or do good, but let's just dive right in and just like during the
take
set,
that chance.
Staying faces during the reaction kind of like gave me the confidence to keep doing it. So I just kept going from there and just been progressing, I guess. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Let's see. So you were talking about some songs that you've covered before that you were intending to cover before. So I guess what was your first song that you like perhaps wanted to record vocally for a cover, maybe for like a YouTube channel? I don't know if you have, or like if you have your own individual YouTube channel where you're like, yo, I'm fucking Kieran from Heirs of Humanity, motherfucker, and these are all my vocal covers. I do guitar too, punk, like, you know, and you just show up and like, I'll do your shit, do what you do best. What was your first song that like you covered, even like on the streets, I would say, or like in your own home, just like practice, and you're like, yeah, I can kind of do this now, you know what I mean?
The Taken by Oceano.
Okay, sick.
That's I was gonna say like a specific, but that fucking song. Cool. I love Oceano. Got an Oceano tattoo. I fucking love Oceano. So
badass.
That song specifically, yeah.
Cool. And because we've kind of dug into your lineage involved with Heirs of Humanity a little bit, Kieran, I was actually curious, and I haven't ever done this before on the podcast, but I think I'm going to start doing it from now on. Do you have any stories behind any of your tattoo pieces you want to talk about?
He's got my name on the back of his head.
Yeah.
Really? I'm gullible as fuck, so that was a trap.
I have a lot of people that ask me about my tattoos, like at work, and I'm one of those like unfortunate people that don't have too many stories behind any of my tattoos. Like, I fortunately grew up with people that grew up to be tattoo artists, so a lot of my tattoos have just been like their practiced work, but
okay,
happen to be really good, and they just, in my opinion, look really good. But yeah, it probably sounded really cocky, huh? I have like all right tattoos. All right, I don't think they're the best ever, but I guess
they're the best tattoos ever, guaranteed.
When 15 years old, like getting tattoos in my kitchen on a school night at like 2 a.m. I just got like stuff on my arm. It's like dumb, just like random stuff. Not anything like offensive, but it's just like something a 15-year-old would get.
Right.
So within like the last 2 years, I guess I've just been slowly blacking out my arm.
Was there a former piece under that, or you just black out your arm?
No, there was just like I had this like most cringe tattoo ever underneath here. It said "Fear no man." Like,
Hey, I mean, honestly,
like,
dude,
but
we're
like,
all man. We're all
I had an
human.
alien like right here, alien head, just like random stuff. So
Well, I mean, I guess it was worth a shot because, you know, especially because tattoos are such a big investment. Like, I don't know how many, if you could like put a rough estimate on the money that would have gone into the tattoos if it wasn't for practice, if you were doing commission, can you pinpoint a value on like how much money worth of ink you probably have on you right now?
2,
He's gonna do the math.
5.
Probably like $80.
That's bullshit. Especially with the blacked out piece, bro. Like, get out of here,
It's
man.
like 38 grand, I'd say.
38,000 or 3,800?
38,000.
God damn.
I have my back done. I have my thigh done. I have my entire left leg done. I have sure you probably can't see. So
Right. We still got to monetize off the podcast. No flashing the camera, okay?
my buddy Max the Croy, I'll plug him real quick. Like no, I'm not doing him a favor. He'd probably be doing us a favor, but he's like people fly from all over the world to get tattooed by my buddy Max. So he charges like $2 grand a day for like a half sleeve.
God damn.
He's one of those tattoo artists. Like he'll book or open his schedule every 3 months, and that same day it's booked already for the next 3 months. Like you can't get in our schedule kind of thing. So
Right.
before he started popping off, that was a practice piece. Pretty much
Yeah.
on my right leg. So
Okay. Cool.
Max
Cool.
hooked it up. Definitely. Shout out Max.
Shout out Max. That's awesome.
Max, I'd be broke.
Well, being that, you know, we tried that. We tried to see if that would like dig up any lore per se on Kieran.
Dude, I have no. Well, I guess okay. I love Lorna Shore and I love Oceano, so I have an Oceano tattoo behind this here. The Immortal logo from there.
Oh, sick. Okay, cool. Yeah.
I guess those ones in my black art are the only ones with any significance at all.
Right. Do you plan to do you plan to get an Heirs of Humanity tattoo in the future?
Yeah, hopefully
yeah.
for tour next week. And one of the bands that we're playing with in Chicago, we toured with them last December, and their vocalist also named Kieran.
Okay.
Shout out Kieran. He's a tattoo artist as well. So hopefully on tour we can sneak and I'll get like the matching sigil somewhere on our body.
Forehead.
It's a little teardrop.
Wow.
I just gave him a bad idea. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I do love the emblem though for Heirs of Humanity. It's not exactly like an EOH, like I would hope for, I guess, but you know, it's still pretty cool. Looks like the let's see, looks like the sigil of Lucifer, or like the seal of Lucifer, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I thought it was 2 pirate swords in an hourglass.
Well, at the time, I really liked Lorna Shore, and every band kind of has like a cool sigil that I like for the most part. Even Signs of Swarm, it's like the little wings on their logo. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, thought we needed something, and I'm like, what?
You always need something. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, you can easily tell people in the future, like, we have an emblem, but it's not the seal of Lucifer. People are like, why not? Like, your band's culty enough, man. But, you know, that's exactly what I thought too. I think the first time I ever checked you out, and I was recommended too by Derek Connolly of Nithful. And I looked at the emblem, I looked at the first logo. I'm like, the first logo is kind of but their emblem's pretty cool. I like the emblem. And obviously the new logo, it looks fucking great. It looks fantastic. Yeah.
Miguel did that. I met him over Facebook, but he hooked it up for us. So shout out to Miguel too.
Fuck yeah, dude. Especially the 3D version of the logo. Obviously that didn't really work for for my thumbnails and stuff when I was like utilizing it, because the pixelization and stuff, it would just make it look all like boxy and just like but yeah, it was great. I love the new logo. So we've actually been here for quite a bit of time now, being that it's 4:36 p.m. for me, probably 6:36 p.m. for y'all, right? Cool. I'm keeping track of time. Yeah. So if anything, we have Kieran, and I'm so sorry. I forgot your name.
Dane.
Dane?
Like the dog.
Okay, right. Okay, cool. And there's also like Dane Evans from To the Grave. Okay. So Dane, you when you were doing high school, when you were doing college and shit too, you did quite a bit more homework as far as being a drummer and getting into the art, getting invested into your medium. So what ended up getting you into drums, man?
When I was about 10 years old, my grandma got me and my two other siblings Rock Band 2 on the Wii. And so like we played that, and then I just pretty much just kept on playing, got really good at that game. But I didn't have an actual drum set until freshman year of high school, until I was like 15 or so. And that's when I actually started like kicking into gear and practicing a lot. And this is very embarrassing to say, but Five Finger Death Punch was my intro into metal and into double bass drumming. Like when I first started drumming, I was ass at like rudiments and like hand stuff. I was like, I just want my feet to get really freaking fast. And I listened to lots of Five Finger Death Punch and Slipknot. And then like I like grew out of them, kind of got into heavier stuff, and then got into like just lots of different other types of music. And then yeah, I was like, I didn't know how to read sheet music or anything until like my senior year of high school. But my band, we had like a class called Studio Tech, which was like learning how microphones work and stuff, which is very good for like a high school. Like most high schools don't have classes like that, but mine fortunately did. And my teacher was like I would like make little metal songs in Logic, like with the stop guitar sound and stuff like that. And he was like, I would like stay after and work on them. And then he was like, you should go to school for this if you really like it. And I was like, all right. And so I did, and I met lots of other people and made lots of connections, which I think is definitely more useful than the musical stuff I learned from there. I learned lots about like Bach and like 1800s chorales and stuff like that, which is all, I've already forgotten all that already, but I've not forgotten all the homies that I met up in UW Oshkosh. And also probably wouldn't have met Kieran because if I was in Madison still, I would have been like, that's too far away and wouldn't have done it.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely have more experience in like other genres, and deathcore and metal as a whole is like definitely the more like I don't have to think about it when I play it. It's just all like emotional and stuff, and especially because I practice so much of like the fast drumming, I guess, when I was like younger, and then went into like the more like sophisticated like jazz stuff. Playing metal is just like second nature to me pretty much, as opposed to like I know lots of people like they think it's very like articulate and tight and it's like super hard to do, but like for me it's like that's just what I was like my first language in drumming, so yeah.
No, for real, that's cool. Do you have like a dream kit that you're hoping to acquire one day?
Not really. I've never been a gear guy at all. I've definitely upgraded my cymbals. I actually won the Mapex armor I have right now in my sophomore year of college when we went to the Percussive Arts Society International Convention in Indianapolis with my other percussion students. And there was the world's fastest feet like booth. There was like you would go up and it would be like it would count how many strokes you did. And I won that, and I won a whole drum set because I just had the fastest feet at that convention. Dude. And that's what I've had since, and it's stuck with me. Yeah, I don't have like a dream kit or anything. I just want to sound good and look cool.
Yeah, you want something that can keep up with your speed as well.
Yeah.
No, that's badass. So bouncing back to Kieran too, because I think this is going to be a little bit more of a chaotic episode, but I think people will enjoy it for what it's worth instead of it feeling so scripted like the other 52 prior episodes. So Kieran, I want to put a little bit of pressure on you, provide some spotlight, provide me 5 albums, artists, or just genres that have helped you kind of get where you are now, or maybe even like vocalists and shit, because everybody has their like favorite vocalists of all time, and if not, they have like 5 favorite vocalists or even 20 favorite vocalists, but we're isolating it to 5 because we don't got we got 2 hours, right? We're only taking 2 hours of you guys' time, more or less. So 5, go ahead and provide me 5 in any of those categories.
I'll just say bands, because when it comes to each band, I'm a mom fan to each band that I just like am so invested in. I just like love the bands, I guess. So I can't name specific albums, but like specifically old Signs of the Swarm just like has a very special place in my heart. Like the Disfigurement of Existence, that album specifically, just like from top to bottom, I can't name
from front to back.
The instrumental, the intro, like I can't name one bad song. I love that album. Immortal by
Born Ashore.
Again, top to bottom, perfection. That's like the first metal album like where I got goosebumps, where I cried.
Really?
Like, this, like, I've seen the reactions of their new music, and I've listened to their new music, and I'm a fan of it, and it's very, very emotional.
Yes.
But when it comes to just like traditional deathcore of like, damn, this is like insane. Like I can't help myself but crying out of sadness, but like I'm just shook right now.
Yeah. No, I get it, dude. And I take it then you're a CJ fan, or?
Yeah, I think I'd say he's really talented, but we'll just leave it out.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know him personally, but the music I've heard, good, but I've never met him. Can't say an opinion on him, but you know that thing. But.
Yeah, and I would dare have to ask too, are you an individual who's like, who kind of separates the art from the artist sometimes? Like, are you kind of in that mindset, or are you kind of the other way around? Not just even regarding that specifically, but just, you know, asking in general, because that's like a whole other conversation when it comes to music enthusiasm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Luckily, I'm not like too much on social media, so I don't see a lot of bullshit from either side. So that's why I kind of I do the band thing, and I make sure I manage the band's account accordingly, but I don't like dive too much into anything, because not me personally, but I've seen it in real life, unfortunately, where it's gone both ways, and it's just not a good situation to put myself in personally. So
right.
As a band, we bring that to the band. Like, you won't find any drama, any cancellation bullshit on any 3 of us. Like, we're straight up forward. Like, we're just solid guys. Like, we don't deal with the bullshit. Like, if we've never met you personally, we've heard things. Like, we will be weary. Like, there's a reason people say things. It's not just made up out of thin air. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not gonna hold it against someone if I've never taken my personal experience with that person. And if it's like, I like their like Michael Jackson situation. People can say what they want. It's the same thing. Like, he made good music. He did what he did. May or may not. I don't know. Again, I fucking know. Never met him personally, but he's got some cool hits. And again, we stay out of that shit.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I'm not even like specifically regarding one band, but you know, it's definitely a conversation to have, like whether or not you're able to, you know, separate the art from the artist. Like, that's, I don't know, for me personally, that's like a big thing. And for me right now, it's like I'm shooting for a lot of underdogs for sure, and I'm like trying to provide them their side of the story. That way, depending on what happens, is like, well, I'm a small YouTube channel, so if people really want to cancel me, then that's like up to the culture, really. That's up to the communities and shit. But even then, it's like, well, I know I'm not a bad person or whatever, and I only want to provide certain individuals their side of the story. But anyways, that's like more or less just beating the freaking hammer on the just like using the hammer, beating the nail into the wood, even though the wood's splitting per se. So if anything too, this is kind of a goofy ass question. Has anybody ever told you that you look like Johnny from Carcosa?
Dude, yeah. Funny story, man. Funny story. First off, we put a photo out. We posted an Instagram photo, and someone commented like, "Is that Johnny from Carcosa?" Like, no, but like he commented on it. He's like, "No, that's not me." But I see the resemblance.
Yeah.
I went to Chaos. Was it fucking Chaos and Carnage? Maybe
Probably.
in Minneapolis 2 years ago. But it was like Signs of the Swarm, Lorna Shore.
Angel Maker was on the bill. I remember that.
Oh, it was, but 3 people that show came up to me. There's this girl standing right in front of me before the next set. She turns around, she goes, "Aren't you playing next? Aren't you doing something?" I'm like, "I know you think I am, and no, I'm just here enjoying the show." This other guy came outside asking me for an autograph, and I'm like, "Dude, I just watched him walk past. I'm not that guy." And then another guy that came up and ran, he's like, "You just look like Johnny." And then, ironically, him and I, only time we had an interaction, he walked past me, we just made eye contact, and then he kept walking like that, like beards with good beards, like we make that.
He's like, contact. "Yeah, I see you. Wait, my twin." Just...
But that was it. But I've had that lots of times. I've also gotten Seth Rogen, which I don't get at
That's
all.
insane.
I was like,
that's a little far.
Kieran is black.
Yes. I'm black. I don't look like Seth Rogen. Oh yeah, breaking news. Some people don't believe it. I'm black.
Me too.
Yeah.
Who told you? Ancestry or what?
Yeah.
You see my father, you know I'm black.
Oh, okay. But no, that's funny. And like I remember the first music video I saw, especially when like your face is scrunched up. I'm like, oh my God, that could be Johnny, but I know it's fucking not Johnny, because if it's not John Robert C. from Crystal Lake, formerly The Last 10 Seconds of Life, Johnny is actually subscribed to my channel, which I'm like, thank you. But you know, and he recognizes me more or less every time I go to a show, and I cannot wait to see him and the boys again in September with the Suffer Forever tour with Angel Maker. And like, what a fucking lineup, dude. That's all I'm gonna say.
The only thing about living in Wisconsin is there's not too many, like, and it's a Wisconsin thing. I feel like it's Wisconsin's fault, but there's not too many like venues regularly that have like touring bands like that come through, and it sucks. But like,
oh really?
Yeah, like we don't have too many.
Shit.
We have a show booked August 17th with Born of Osiris, Upon a Burning Body, and Traders. We have that in Madison, and they'll have like shows like that come through every once in a while. We have a brand new place in Green Bay that hosts like big like bands, like old school like 80s bands, I guess, even 90s bands, but
maybe like Bringing Horizon or some shit.
To the Wisconsin, to the Chicago shows or the St. Paul shows. That's why I had to go see that Lorna Shore, Signs of the Swarm, that whole, I think it was Chaos and Carnage, yeah, in St. Paul, because it wasn't anywhere nearby here. Totally worth it. But
right,
yeah,
right.
That looks sick though.
I'm sure, dude. I hate that I've never actually been to Chaos and Carnage yet. Not one iteration of it.
The most violent pit, the Lorna Shore, Death Portrait, the first breakdown to Death Portrait of Lorna Shore, most violent pit I've ever been in. My glasses got broken. I lost my hat. It was amazing.
I'm sure.
A+, obviously.
Yeah. No, like Chaos and Carnage is so fun, and like especially the iteration for this year, I'm like, fuck, because they're not coming through Phoenix at all. And I used to be over basically in Nashville, Middle Tennessee, and easily said, for whatever reason, even though Nashville is Music City, like half the time, if it's not Nashville, it's going to be Knoxville, which is like 4 hours away. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? And that's like it's a 50-50 between those two. So you have the venues over in Nashville, and if not that, there's Chattanooga, which is like right, like maybe 5 minutes away from Alabama, right? And then if it's not Chattanooga, it's Knoxville. But Knoxville's so fucking far, dude. I'm like, dude, I might have a car, but like I've never driven like 4 hours to see a show until it was the Labyrinthian Hymns tour. That was the Breathing Process and Worm Shepherd. They did 2 different runs on the East Coast, and I'm like best friends with all of them. So of course I'm like, I don't even care if I have to take my buddy's car, mind you, and drive 4 hours, like 3 to 4 hours over to Knoxville to see my buddies. I'm seeing my buddies today. And then I lost the fucking keys for the car. So my buddies had to bring their car out, drive that distance. Then we came back, and this was in the middle of winter. I almost got stuck in a snowstorm. It was hell, but it was worth it. It was absolutely worth it. And shout out to all my buddies in Warm Shepherd and the Breathing Process, because they were such good people. And like literally I felt like I was part of the band. And that's the best experience you can get with a live show. But also I run Warm Shepherd's Facebook community, Druid House, as the overseer. And then the Breathing Process, we're working on that part. But nonetheless pretty good friends with them. So more or less we got one character out of Kieran. So are there like 4 other bands that you would like place at the top when it comes to your overall discography? Any bands that you just like cherish other than like Signs of the Swarm, early Signs of the Swarm?
Signs of the Swarm, Lorna Shore, Oceano, Crown Magnetar, underrated band of ever. It's still fucking good. And then kind of an oddball, I'll throw After the Burial in there, because their album Rare Form hits different as well.
Cool.
So I'd say those bands probably, but the slammier and heavier the better, I guess. Like,
yeah,
you name it, like Worm Shepherd.
Yeah.
I can.
You're like, I have yet to listen to them, but I'm sure they're heavy because they're being talked about a lot recently. Which is like so cool that they went from like the bottom level and they're like getting up there with like Mental Cruelty, Lorna Shore, and like all these other dudes in the scene. It's badass.
Which band is that?
What's up?
Which band is that you're referring to?
Oh, Warm Shepherd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like
Those
they're climbing, bro.
Yeah.
It just sucks because other like certain things have happened, and I'm sure they don't want me discussing that, but it's caused complications. So delays and all that. But all right, so Dane, bouncing back to you, man. We've talked a little bit about your background, how you went to school, even for drumming and stuff. So I guess really trying to break it down to maybe like any like your favorite drummers of all time, right? Or like even some albums or artists, whatever, from you that you kind of looked up to a lot from the beginning to up until recently.
I got into drumming, and then my dad was like big into Rush.
Oh, really?
Neil Peart. Yeah.
Dude.
And so I was like, yeah, I'll be like Rush. And then I like started drumming, and I was like, all right. And
I'm way beyond this, man.
Obviously, like Joey Jordison and like Jay Weinberg and stuff.
Yeah.
Felt really cool. The drummer of Five Finger Death Punch, I liked him just because that was who I liked when I was fucking 14.
Yeah.
And then he quit the band to become a cop, and I was like, never mind. I don't like it anymore.
Are you pretty 13, 12 then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah.
I got you, bro.
Yeah. Then I know there's Jimmy Pino. Do you recognize? He used to be Signs of the Swarm. He has the song. I forget what it's fucking called, but there's like a drum playthrough of him playing a Signs of the Swarm song, and I was like, "This is like how good I want to be someday." So I like him. I don't think he's in the band anymore.
No,
I'm pretty
no.
guy.
It's Bobby Crow now as the drummer.
Yeah, it's that guy. I don't know. I've never like. I don't know if that says a lot about me, but I don't like Pablo from Chelsea Grin is the guy that I fucking love. And I just, cause it's like, he's so groovy and he's so tight. And I see the fills that he does. I see the shit that he does. I see the rudiments he's playing. And I know it's like, he knows what the fuck he's doing, Yeah. He's not just like insanely fast, like double strokes with triggers, and shit like that. He like does the fills that are like they're jazz fills pretty much, but it's like in deathcore, and that's what I think. Chelsea Grin is one of my favorite bands, and I think that's what makes their sound. That's what makes them sound like them, as opposed to other deathcore bands. Unfortunately, he is not touring with me. I think he went to like he's like pursuing like country music and shit now, or
really.
He's not. They have a different guy touring with them right now.
Yes.
I know that Pablo like on his Instagram and shit. I think he's in like Tennessee or like Texas or something, but like there's videos of him playing and it's like country music. And I don't know, I don't want to be like making shit up or whatever, but like I like maybe it's just because he just needed something new, or maybe there's just more money in it, honestly, like drumming for huge ass country stars and stuff. But he is a guy that I've looked up to. Hostage by Chelsea Grin was like the song that got me into that. I did like a drum cover of it like 4 years ago in school, and
fuck yeah, that's cool. No, I like when it comes to drummers for sure, just because of the major mechanics that they introduced to the scene. Drummers that I usually think about are Jordan Savage from While She Sleeps. There's Pablo from formerly of Chelsea Grin until further notice. And then there's Chris Whiteman of damn. He's currently in Body Snatcher. He's currently in Body Snatcher, but like not gonna lie, the main thing that kind of stood out to me from them. Oh yeah, the dude from Guerrilla Warfare too. What the fuck? Drummers and vocalists at the same time. Like I think that's just so iconic. And then Pablo, if not Chris, from currently in Body Snatcher, he used to be in, god damn it, King Conquer. There we go. That's one of the bands he used to be in. I don't know. There's just something very intriguing about how someone can do like slower, for sure, deathcore, but also like kind of provide some like kind of screaming and shit, backup singing. It's just really cool. It's really iconic to me. So absolutely, that's awesome. And I love that you more or less started with Rush, because I haven't listened to them yet, but they seem to be one of the least problematic bands from that time that I want to go back and dig into their discography for. Because it was usually the front man back then that was causing all the issues, like Axl Rose. But you know, it was just different times, you know what I mean? It was a kind of toxic culture. It's all about like sex, money, and booze, and rock and roll, yeah. Like that was just kind of how it was back then. But it was usually mostly the vocalist, the face of the band, because they're like, yeah, I'm the fucking face of the band, man. All the money, all the bitches. I'm like, go die, dude. Like, I don't care how iconic you might be. Like, you're not that cool. You're not a god. But anyways, so we've kind of dug into their lineage, and it's about to be 5 p.m. sharp. Look at me go. I'm keeping track of time, kind of crunching it all down, just like nice and precise today.
Good job.
Yeah, I'm proud of myself. A little pound on the shoulder, pound on the back. So I guess that this would be a good time really to migrate into the second half of the session, as we've learned these two gentlemen's story at least a little bit more than, you know, any other people. Have you guys done interviews before? Have you done a podcast yet?
We did one. It wasn't as long. It was like 15 minutes long.
Oh, what the fuck?
It was more just like these are these guys and they have an album coming out, and we're like, yeah, we do. And that was pretty much it.
Yeah, it was our homie Michael Vega. He's the one who booked our upcoming tour. We just he emailed us about a show randomly and just like hooked us up with them. Pretty cool. And then started hooking us up on this tour. So he does a podcast and like does every and any band, and just like he's very just like you said 5 o'clock. This next subject, like he's very regimented to a T. He's getting bands in and out every 15 minutes. I love it. Dude, just like on the grind. Just like it was very like question. Boom, boom, boom.
He actually sent us our lanyards for tour about like 2 hours ago. Once I got here, there was a package. Yeah, he fucking sent those to me.
Let's go.
Dane's official.
Yeah.
Shout out, Michael. Your volume cut out.
Your mic. Okay.
I don't know why it does that. It doesn't sound like fucking episode now. I hate it. So it's 5 p.m. sharp now. We might as well get into the second half of the podcast session and not make this one of the 3-hour episodes, people, because I know these guys probably have other stuff to do, a fucking life to attend to. So let's go ahead and dig into the second session, where we're going to get into that imaginary mindset now, right? We're going to pretend that I'm some sweaty fucking teenager who just attended your show, probably broke someone's nose in the face of your music. I'm approaching the merch table and I have these sets of questions, right? Or I have a set of questions, not these sets. That's a lot of questions. So for starters, Kieran, I understand that you're not the original vocalist, but you always had the idea on paper. You were legitimately on, like, we have this confirmed in session, and if it ever needs to be confirmed in court, then so fucking be it, right? We know that you are the main mind child for what is Errors of Humanity. So first question, one of the cringiest questions to ask, but sometimes it has a really fun story behind it. Why the name? Why Errors of Humanity for this project? Under pressure.
Simple answer, because maybe we'll talk about it. Each song has to do with an error of humanity, just like a fuck up or something someone did. Like the very first piece of music we released, that being our EP, we released it on the same day that we dropped the bombs on Little Boy and Small Man or whatever.
Oh, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, right?
Thank you. Just like, that's all we pretty much write about, and I'll dive into other things, but that's like wholeheartedly pretty much what we write about. And I was just like, what sounds cool? Like literally, like what sounds cool, and what's something that'll stick out. And in my head, I always thought EOH was just, after humanity, I'm like, EOH is like simple, and I never referred to it as EOH, but it's just something that caught on that people automatically do. So I think that's really cool too. So
right.
That's just easy to say. Errors of Humanity.
Now it's just errors. We'll just say
yeah.
EOH or errors.
Yeah, that's like, it's like the first name, but the full name, right? You know, you think errors, you're like, wait, let's see, are there any bands named Errors? You type it into the Spotify. Oh no, but there's this band. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Until further notice. Wah, wah, wah.
I think there might be a metal band Errors. I'm pretty
sure. Fuck! No
way, dude.
Did the bong just knock over? Dude.
Very first time I've done that ever.
That is not true.
I am a fucking omen. I am so sorry.
So true, dude.
I don't claim the name Omen. That's Devin's thing. But yeah, I can definitely be an Omen sometimes. So I apologize. I should have said that start a session, just like I am fucking bad luck. Beware. But please don't tell me the bong water spilled over the carpet or some shit.
I just have a really cheap rug underneath this.
Oh, okay, cool. So it's not gonna smell like, you know, freaking damp weed for like weeks on end. Well,
but yeah, that's pretty much like the Errors of Humanity kind of just sounded cool, and it's like what we pretty much write about. Lyrically.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. Oh, I'm definitely glad you guys didn't decide to reverse the acronym per se and be like, well, I don't know, there's something else, because that would be HO instead.
Humanity Error.
Humanity Errors.
Humanity Error. Like, that
might be our next EP title. You never know.
You guys listen to the new Ho album?
That's what I'm saying. Like, imagine there's an alternate timeline where you guys were like, Humanities or Error. People are like, Ho. Like, but instead it's Hoa, or no. Errors of Humanity. Eo. It's like a good old honk or whatever. But, you know, don't fucking say that to them in person. Just like, are you guys from EO? They'll be like, what the, are you okay? Do you need medical attention, my guy? But okay, so we got the band name figured out, right? We got whatever lore is provided behind that, and then we got basically what is important to you, Kieran, when it comes to lyrical content behind most of the songs, which, like, as long as you have a formula, that's badass. Same thing with my band, like Blind Without Our Failures. It's like, well, what are we without our failures? What are we without our mishappenings? You know, the lessons we learned without our life. We'd be blind. We'd be babies, bro. I mean, even babies, like, it's a weird conversation for sure. But like, you dig into some of the scientific research and like the new discoveries being made about infants, right? And you're learning that with some of these kids, there's more or less theories. I don't know if there's evidence behind it that like infants actually have an intelligent recollection, even a sentient recollection. Well, I guess sentient in and of itself would mean intelligence and recollection of memories and shit like that. But it's like the research behind that, people are theorizing and I think finding source studies that they have like memories of before they were born and when they were in heaven, and people are like, well, reincarnation, let's go, baby. Like, you know, and it's just like always very interesting. But again, you guys have a formula for what you write when it comes to your music. So I think that's actually a pretty good way to segue into Under the Skin. Would you, Kieran and Dane, be willing to go under the skin, do track by track lyrical analysis for Testimony?
Ooh, sure.
Yeah, I don't know lots of lyrics to Testimony because I just drummed the songs.
You just smack shit to the music and hope it sounds good.
I'm not ashamed to say it.
So yeah. maybe backstory. Like Dane even came in like when we were writing Testimony, I guess. Like again, I was meeting with Stacy and James was living with me at the time.
Yeah.
So I wrote and recorded all of the guitar on Testimony, and James did the guitar, or James did the vocals. So, and then in my head, I just had like the most basic drum shit that we did, like just like blast beat, cool fill. And then Dane was getting more involved, and then we actually met here. And then him and Stacy went through and made sure all the drums were exactly how Dane wanted them and how we wanted to play them live. So I feel like that's a big thing too.
Yeah. They're like, here, play this. You're like, I can't fucking play this. What do you, what? You know, like, I can play a lot, but I can't play this. Like, what? We're not Infinite Annihilator, bro. Like,
I'm one of those people where I don't, again, understand where he's coming from sometimes. Well, I do after the fact, but I'll just put like something impossible. You know, something that sounds good, but it's like, yeah, right. Let me hear you. Let me see you play it live.
You're like, this is what you signed up for, Dane.
When he'd hear it, he'd be like, ah! Well, he can go back and slow that blast beat down, but put a cool fill, or just like put his little, just like Dane touch on it and bring that just like UW Oshkosh education into it. And like listen to him like talk like quadruple tuplets. Just like
you're like, speak English, fool. I can't understand your Spanish, man.
Him and Tyler can go on for days, but I love it. So
that's good.
He came in, and then so he was even kind of after the fact when we got into it lyrically. So
right.
And yeah, it's kind of hard to understand too. So it's like he has enough part to fucking actually drum it, makes it sound like it. So
well, definitely. A question that I forgot to ask before. Before we go ahead and dive into the Under the Skin and like really just Blood Eagle just rip open this album, be like, what's inside? Like as the anatomy part of the Crosscast, right? So obviously you guys define your band with the genre of slamming deathcore. So was there like any specific thought process behind like just like we're slamming deathcore? And if there wasn't, like, I don't know, like what is a general summary? What the fuck? What is a general summary of what you guys do musically speaking? Like what makes it slamming deathcore to you? And how does Heirs of Humanity kind of distinguish from other slamming deathcore or deathcore bands in the scene? Like what do you believe helps distinguish you guys?
At first, we kind of just wrote what we wanted to and let like the people on the internet and on Facebook, on YouTube comments kind of decide where fate went as what it became of a subgenre. So we just didn't know what we were getting into, and then people again start going on
keyboard warriors.
Like, putting on this subcategory, and you're like, okay, so we just gotta lean on this or that or the other. So
yeah.
They put us in that, I guess, and then we just kind of leaned on it. And so even with Testimony, people would call slamming deathcore with the Human Solicism, which I even think was very, very elementary compared to what we just put out and compared to what we are going to be fucking putting out hopefully soon. Well, not soon, but
soon enough.
Later.
You know, it's not the distant future where you're going to have a beard reaching like 3 inches more down your face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard to get excited. I try not to get excited about the new stuff. So
right, but yeah, I'm just doing a podcast session. You're good. No, that's always fun, and what's like it's always so funny to see like the fucking subgenres that some people will come up with, like pirate core and alien core and fucking death.
I just love the people that just like get so invested. I'm just like dying on a hill. Like, I love it. I love it so much.
It's great. It's like the more toxic part of the culture, really, but like also it's what makes it so it's what makes it so confident in itself. Yes, hilarious for sure. But it's like we're a tech death band, but we also incorporate elements of slam and deathcore and some death metal, but even some fucking jazz, like because we happen to add a saxophone in there somewhere. I'm like, dude, it's of course you can have your marketing strategy and be like, we are here's one example. Shout out to the boys in Virulent. We are necro thuggin' slam hop beatdown.
Like if it's metal, it's metal.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's like a fine line between toxic and not toxic. But like, I don't like the toxic stuff, but
yes.
Like the people that are like, when our videos post to Slam worldwide, and the people that are like,
this is more slam than anything, you fucking posers.
Like, when people like, I'm not on any like Slam Worldwide community Facebook group or anything like that anymore, because I just like would put my random opinion on a song up that I was listening to in that group on Facebook.
Yeah, just watch the chaos ensue.
But like, not even wanting to get like, I would just post an old Signs of the Swarm song, and people like, I would just be like, this song is like the epitome of deathcore, so good. And then like some guy would just be like so personal, just like talking about my personal life and how I looked. And I'm like, dude, it's a song. Don't be that guy. Like that's
you're not that guy. You're not that guy. Okay.
Yeah. Good job of like monitoring that, but like that shit's just like
it's so funny.
There's that line, but also just the people that are like, oh, that's not that. But
yeah, gibby.
I like that.
It's so goofy.
We got a hat that we're probably announced. I don't know when this is coming out, but we on tour. We're probably putting out the post in the next couple of days. But
okay,
we got a hat coming out, and on the back of the hat it says, in quotes, "not slam." I can't wait. I'm gonna be rocking one of those,
dude. Absolutely, man. I mean, you have bands like Within Destruction, who their whole marketing strategy for the longest time was fake slam. And like, they had the music video Fake Slam Police with Dickie Allen in like a skin tight police outfit and shit. You can see his bulge and he's just tackling motherfuckers. Like that shit, it adds comedy to the scene, bro. Fake Slam, just like Fake Slam Police coming for the fake slam kids. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. I love it. And especially when at the time, one of the biggest faces of deathcore / slam, because Infinite Annihilator has some slam elements in it. Freaking, I'm gonna watch the comments just blow up, just like Infinite Annihilators, not slam. Like, shut the fuck up. I don't care. But it's just funny, like looking back on what bands have done in the past to just kind of take a shit on the culture, but like in a fun way, in a fun and productive way. Because either way, even if you get negative and even if you get negative critique, that also balances out with positive critique. If that's not happening, then that's like, I don't know, you're not really going anywhere just yet. You know what I mean? So with that in mind, now we go ahead and dig under the skin of Testimony. And I'm sure there's like a lot to talk about with this record, because even the name of the album is just like Testimony. And most of the songs on the album have like a correlating audio sample from like a distorted vocal of like some preacher or some shit, which I really liked. And it's really the reason I added your album to the Ignite the Church playlist on my Spotify, because woo, that's so cool. But also it's like it's mainly slamming deathcore, but it definitely has those blackened like anti-church elements when you add those vocal samples in, right? Or at least that's just my own personal opinion. So starting off, right, you pick up Testimony. Imagine it's a book in a library and you're like, wow, the album cover looks pretty sick. What is with this emblem? Why is it there 3 times? Why is there a Baphomet and a whole bunch of people in cloaks just hanging out in a very, very dark, almost like cavernous space? And then you turn it around. You see the back of the book summary, as you would with your average book, like this, right? So what would be a good back of the book summary for what Testimony is compared to the Human Solipsism and any other standalone single that Heirs of Humanity has put out so far?
That's a good question.
I would say a dark and ominous look into the Heirs of Humanity.
Oh,
The most
branding
most intense, fucked up, brutal, chaotic things that's ever happened throughout human existence that people and humans have done to one another, whether it be through political acts or taking advantage of authority or religion or just being a bad person and wanting to
Being a bad putty tat.
a bad person wanting to inflict just like your nonsense onto other people.
Right. So it's really, of course, like the testimony part. It really, I think, works with the audio samples that are provided, because it's obviously some evangelical toxic as fuck preacher just like, oh, we were chosen by God, and like spewing out his bullshit, because people like that definitely still do exist, and they exist everywhere here in the country, and it makes me want to gag, but whatever, because freedom of religious beliefs and stuff like that. But testimony, when I think of that and provided the context, I'm like, okay, so this album really is a testimony to the darkest elements and the darkest lyrical material that Heirs of Humanity has provided thus far, as well as a testimony to how bad the Heirs of Humanity can go in the world that we know today.
100%.
Bing bong. So starting off, because we have the track list, this album.
I'm glad you interpreted it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I do that weird deep dive shit. That's my job. More or less, I'm just like trying to bait you guys into being like, because like plenty of bands have kind of had that moment before. And it's I hate to say it, but it's kind of entertaining sometimes, but it's also like, it's good to challenge perspective and see like how deep an artist, a musician will be willing to go. But quick shout out to your Spotify page, in which currently you guys have 2,642 monthly listeners. Congratulations on that. I don't even have, I think, 10 for Blind Without Our Failures yet, but yet again, we've only released one song, no visualizers, no nothing for it. Hopefully that'll be changing soon. But going back to Heirs of Humanity, with testimony, with the track listing, right, incorporated and provided via Spotify, the first track would be Prelude, and that's, if I remember correctly, usually an intro song that's just introducing you to the album, right? And that's usually just providing an audio sample. But if I remember correctly from yesterday, there is quite a bit of musical content even with just a prelude. So let's go ahead and start with Prelude. What's going on here, lyrically speaking?
There is no lyrics for the first 45 seconds of the
Aha, yes, I was correct.
Oh.
And I didn't look to the fucking right and see that it was only 31 seconds long. Okay, so we're skipping that. Track 2, The Persecution. What is going on here?
That's how it goes.
That one is similar to Honor Killing. It's kind of like a continuation of Honor Killing is a continuation of The Persecution, which Honor Killing is the next song. But it's kind of about just like the Salem witch trials and just like how back then, how fucked up it was. Is like even nowadays, just like you don't need necessarily any proof or any just like anything like that. They could back in the day could just be like that lady did something crazy, like she's a witch.
Yeah.
Stoned to death.
She challenged science. Science, I tell you. She
So
said the earth was at the center of the universe. No, the sun was at the center of the universe. How preposterous. Burn her alive. Kill her. Kill the whole family.
Literally.
God, I would burn the witch. Yeah, seriously. It's I look back and it's one of the main reasons I'm not Western monotheist. You know what I mean? Of course, I respect everybody I know who is involved in that, but I'm like, look back on history, man. Like Salem witch trials. All in the name of God, we shall burn this woman.
She is a spot of Satan. She's collaborating with the devil.
Like,
Think about that. It's like how back in the day someone could just say that lady did something I don't agree with. She's a witch, and you just like it's okay to publicly murder them. Just think of that happening
Right.
nowadays. That would be fucking insane. So.
well, I mean, technically, it still does happen, just not with women, and it happens in sundown cities, which those are very silenced stories. But very painful to acknowledge that those still exist, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with the lore, if you've heard of like any sundown cities in Wisconsin, but basically sundown cities are the isolated spaces in the United States where the KKK and religious extremists, evangelical extremists still reside. And basically they call it a sundown city because when the sun goes down, all POC, right, people of color based laws and like regulations like, hey, you can't lynch people anymore. Like, why the fuck would you need to do that? These people don't care. And once the sun goes down, these small towns, these small communities, free reign. They can do whatever they want, and there are probably still lynchings happening. So technically, that toxic culture, that error of humanity per se, still resides here in the United States. It's just a lot more quiet because it's like, well, if the masses at large, right, knew about those, well, we'd probably be hunting down and burning those cities to the ground or something very similar. Because, well, no, none of us want lynchings to be happening anymore, or even something very similar like that could be happening, man. Women could still be burned at the stake for understanding their multiplication tables. You know what I mean? It's really, it's disgusting to think about, but after all, it is an error of humanity. So with the persecution and honor killing more or less in mind, talking about the Salem witch trials, we have track 4, The Perilous Horde, featuring Derek Connolly of Nithful. What's going on here?
So there's this song lyrically will never be, it's very personal to me. And I feel like,
right.
And this is the one song ever, and I feel like in our ever existence of a band that there won't be lyrics for anywhere, and no one, unless you can want to break them down and understand them, then you can go from there. But
yes,
that's the one song that I won't, like, if you want to take the time to break it down, not you personally, but just like if anyone listens to it and you're like, you want to know what's going on, you listen to that, break it down, and then we can like, then let's like discuss it. But that's one that like, if you look on Spotify, anywhere, like I'm not gonna have like, that's the one song probably that won't have like any lyrical content to it.
Yes, right. No lyrical explanation.
Very violent and intense, for sure.
Right. Naturally. Okay, cool. And
it's
I
about
will.
Kieran's erectile dysfunction. And he does this.
Breaking news.
Breaking news headline.
News.
I'm just kidding.
No, that song's brutal. So
that's mean, Dane. That's mean. Be nice to your bandmates, man.
That's my role in the band, is when people are trying to be authentic and open up, I just have to immediately make it humorous and destroy any type of authentic human emotional connection, and just slather with irony. And
well, Dane's still 17, so
yeah,
he still has like that. He's still got that growing up to do. You know what I
Oh
mean?
Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, if you told me that straight up, I would absolutely believe it. Like, not gonna lie.
Last year, we joked that he couldn't drive because he didn't have his temps. He said have his temps.
I'm 23 years old.
Oh, we're the same age then. Okay, cool. Okay, so with track 5 being like, that's a first for the podcast for sure, but nonetheless, I have no intention of like, kind of pushing and shoving, just like, what is he talking about? Because that would just be fucking stupid. That would be inconsiderate. So track
like
5
to get into that.
Yeah, like if it's that personal to you, absolutely. But track 5, we have Counting the Coups, which happens to be like one of my favorite songs off of this record, without a doubt. What's going on here lyrically?
So James Hunt, he's the original vocalist in the band. Him and I kind of collaborated on the lyrics. So a lot of the stuff we were just throwing ideas back and forth, but kept the same idea of Errors of Humanity, just fucked up shit. Writing that song, we were like doing deep dives on just like the most crazy stuff that just ever happened, like in multiple cultures, tribes all over the world. We found just like very interesting topics on just like the Mayans and the Incas and the Aztecs, and when they would go to war and the things that they would do, and like them literally preparing for battle, just like it was just insane. So we just kind of just kept that vibe throughout that song. Just like
Okay.
going to battle, killing your enemies,
And scalping them.
Right. That's
Yeah.
always fun.
just writing about they would scalp them, they would wear their hair, just crazy stuff. Just like
Yeah.
really insane.
Take selfies with them.
Yeah, because they had iPhones back then, Dane. Jesus.
That's my favorite song to play on the drums. Off the album.
Ooh. Yeah, that makes sense. That I remember that being an ass beater for sure.
Mhm.
And when I think of Counting the Coups too, I kind of think my first impression, lyrically speaking, despite not knowing any context, like, oh, I don't know, that's why we're here. That's why I'm asking you. But Counting the Coups, the first impression I got was like you mentioned, kind of going throughout history and going through all these major conflicts, all these major wars. The word coup, right? Coup d'etat, or like any of the major mutinies, right, in history throughout society and throughout these major countries, empires, societies, whatever. That's kind of the first thing I thought of. I'm like, okay, so I mean, coups are pretty fucked up to the victim, but usually a coup happens because there's a tyrannic ruler. There's someone abusing their power and the people have had enough, so they take the power within their own hands. And ultimately, by the end of the day, they could have the person that they committed the coup to, the person that they dethroned, committed a mutiny upon, they could be facing a guillotine. So I guess ultimately that was my only question lyrically with that is if there are any references to like any major mutinies or stuff like that that could be fucked up in perspective to the victim, but
Not like specifically, no. Like
No.
that song, we just dove. I remember we were sending links, be like History Channel, National Geographic. These most like articles, like YouTube clips, just like the crazy horrendous things that just go on between
yeah.
wars between these people, and that's just literally what we just focused on that song specifically.
Cool. Yeah. In that case, we have track 6, which is Civil Unrest. This one like feels pretty close to what I was theorizing before, but obviously I'll allow the lyricist to confirm or deny the lyrical context.
Civil unrest. That one is blatantly just about just government tyranny. Just like they have control of a lot of stuff, whether it be media, news articles, social media. There's just a lot of things that get swept under the rug. There's a lot of things that are brought into the light that aren't nearly as important as things that need to be talked about.
Right.
All day and every day.
Yeah.
And just pushing whatever, necessarily not a false one or not one that you should or shouldn't believe, just like pushing whatever agenda they want to at the time, just putting it out there
And that ultimately causing civil unrest.
Taking authority and abusing it.
Right. Yeah. And let's see. There was a couple quotes by a couple people, and funny enough, because I'm a Star Wars nerd, in the Clone Wars, a specific show that's like very, very close to me. It's been with me since my childhood. It's the reason I made certain friends. But like there's some good shit in there. And there's a quote by one of the characters. I don't know how familiar you guys are with Star Wars lore, which is so funny.
Star Wars lore.
You know about Star Wars lore?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yeah. So Kid Fisto in that show, during one of the first initial episodes, as far as like the uploading sequence, but not chronologically speaking, he says like those with power should refrain from using it. Like that's kind of stuck with me for a long time. It was like a very subtle build up to that, but and like that shit, you really think about that sometimes, and you think about that with most of today's modern societies and the various countries around the world. Because if you give enough people power, I wholeheartely believe, and this is personally, I don't mind saying this. This is why I'm kind of 13, 12 myself. It's like you give anybody enough power, enough authority over others, and eventually the potential is there for them to abuse it. And that's, of course, a what if scenario, right? And you can't base the future off of what ifs. But ultimately, 90% of the time, there's a reason 1312 is a thing, not only here, but also in the UK. and probably with most police forces around the world. But like, yeah, in general, you give it someone enough power, they might end up abusing it. And that's what really sucks about democratic society or democracies, right? Is we have this illusion, right, that we have the option to elect and vote in these people. But at the end of the day, there's a massive roadmap for who's going to be in power, who's going to have certain opportunities at the top of the world. And most of the time, anybody who has enough power, they just like, they kind of become feral, right? So just keeping that in mind, that's kind of like my thoughts and opinions towards that general topic. Number 7, track 7, we have probably one of my favorite song names on this album, A Display of Imminent Destruction. Like there's something going on there. What's going on?
I fucking love that song. That's my favorite song off the album, hands down. It's exactly what it sounds like, a display of imminent destruction everywhere and anywhere. And when you hear that song, that's just like what I want you to feel and hear is just like chaos and carnage everywhere. And when you hear that shit live, that's like exactly that's what the fuck you see. That's
right.
Exactly what you see. So that's just straight to the point.
Are there any like a major events in history that you think of when you were like writing that song, perhaps, or were you just like, yeah, this is gonna be fucking brutal?
I think that one was based off the guitar riffs that I was just writing. We wanted to write something just like fast because I was going through a lot of shit. Like,
yeah,
in that little 3-month span where I was recording a couple of the songs from the album or coming up with the ideas. So it was just like very violent and brutal. So I think we just kept maybe for that song, maybe I guess why I like it so much, we kept the entire vibe of the entire album in that song, just like everything all in one. Whether it be people abusing power, whether it be whatever, just whatever. Put anger and aggression into that, and just lyrically, just putting it all out there. Just violence, just I don't know how to put it. Violence.
Yeah, just violence. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta be violent to be violent.
Yeah.
Kind of comes with being a metalhead in a metal band. Lyrically speaking, musically speaking, not in real life. Don't go beating up people, okay, for no reason.
Yeah, no. But like that's the emotion that I want you to feel. Like sometimes I think makes a good like deathcore song is like if the skies were to turn red and the gates of hell just were to start arising from the concrete and just like rise up. Like what just music would be played behind that?
Yeah.
And that's just what I wanted.
Right, exactly. And that's completely understandable. It is part of the art, after all. Track 8, we have Imperceptive Servitude. What is this? What is this about?
That's pretty much the same thing when it comes to people just taking their opinion, and whether it be personal, whether it be a job, or in real life, you're at the store, people just randomly putting their thoughts and opinions on you, whether it could be help you, but just unwanted attention and like people bringing their unnecessary stuff into your life.
Right.
We have a farmer's market here, and I like to go to it sometimes. And there's just people that like will get a little too in your face and want to hand out flyers and just like, but it's like pushing some religious thing, or it's pushing some random thing that whether someone cares about or not, just like people are their own people and let them be their own people. I understand you're trying to reach out, but I guess do it in other ways. Or if it's things will just come together, not just you. Like maybe that sounds wrong of me, I don't know, but just like overstepping, I guess, the boundaries and wanting to, I guess, dilute someone's life with your own like vision on how you think.
Yeah. No, I dude.
No matter again, work, personal life, relationships.
Yeah.
Anything.
And the thing is too, with like the song title in mind, because there's actually quite a bit going on with like the grammar, right, provided with this track. So imperceptive servitude. when with the context in mind, and I don't know why I just end up doing this with all the bands I host on the podcast. So you have imperceptive, which is kind of like oblivious, right? Or like maybe inconsiderate, insensitive, no social walls, no social boundaries whatsoever. But they're providing a servitude, a devotion to that type of character without realizing it, which is also imperceptive in and of itself. So that's actually a really intelligent song name for that. I think that works really, really well. And it definitely, even just the name itself, it's always fun for me as a lyricist myself when you have to even take a look at the song title and you're just like, that's actually very intelligently structured. Like, what does that specifically mean? It challenges thought, which is really good. I think that's really healthy for anybody who's willing to deep dive into lyrical work. So track 9, we have Tower of Human Skulls featuring Dylan James Hare of Dead Awake, the absolute homie, the first and only member we've had so far from Dead Awake on the Anatomy Crosscast pretty recently, actually. Really cool guy. Let's go ahead and talk about the lyrical content of this song, if there is any that kind of helps separate it from the other tracks on the album.
That's again about tribes back in the day. Back in the day, like it was 2010. Like the 16 and 1700s, I think it was. Just certain tribes, when they would just go to war with random tribes. And my dad did one of those ancestry DNA things. Like we found out we're from Nigeria and just Cameroon.
Right.
So I was just looking up the Yoruba tribe where we're from. Yoruba tribe in Africa, where my dad's lineage is from. It. Like when they would go to war and just with other stuff, just like for intimidation, they would just stack towers of human skulls. And that's, again, they would scalp them as well and just do horrendous things. And just like having that visual and just like intensity into a song is what we put. And just like the strategic things that they would do to go to intimidate their enemy, or when they would prepare to go to war, like their rituals, anything that they did, just pretty much lay it out there and just talk about it. And when it comes to like specific acts that were to happen, like Towers of Human Skulls, like we have the breakdown in that song specifically towards those words and lyrics in that part of the song at the end, like very intense, like build up, and then just intimidation, just like big nuts in your face. That song live is fun too. So I think also whether people feel the lyrics or music in general, like they feel like emotion to it too. And when you see us live, I think we bring a very like, we're a trio and we've kind of been running on that, but we like I think we have a pretty good like stage presence and sound. We bring a lot of emotion to it too and try to get everyone to feel what we're feeling.
Right. Sure. No, it's always great. And I dare have to ask, like, I kind of have a good assumption of why he ended up being the feature, but why did you guys decide to choose Dylan James Hare of Dead Awake for this track?
Because I love that guy so much. He's literally like one of my best friends ever. I've known him for years, and he's literally, again, the reason I knew him before any of the music stuff, and he's the reason I started this band. And when I was in Madison at Tyler's place, Tyler lives in Madison, so I was recording in Madison the vocals for the album. Dylan lives in Madison, so he was just chilling at the studio while I was recording vocals. I'm like, yo, you want to hop on this part? He's like, fuck it. So we did that in like 30 minutes, and the lyrics were already written. We just went through it, and it ended up sounding pretty cool. We ended up shooting the video, and we played a show with Dead Awake, and it was a hometown show, so it's pretty easy to pack that out and sell it out. So we were able to loop him into the video too. So it all works perfectly. And we love all the Dead Awake guys. So just anytime we can work with them, we're happy on them. So obviously will.
Fuck yeah, dude. That's awesome. And shout out again to Dylan James Hare. And I hope to interview the rest of Dead Awake here in the near future as they are making some new steps in their roadmap, preparing to sign to a label. I don't know which label yet. So, I mean, I guess it's a good thing I don't. And then, you know, they're planning to get an EP or album put together with their, as their debut effort under that new label. I'm just like super curious on which label they are going to jump on. But I guess again, that's it's good that I'm curious and I don't know. But track 10 to wrap up Testimony, we have the freaking title track featuring my little brother, bro, Devin Duarte of Worm Shepherd, formerly of Devin to Embers. So we kind of went over this whole album and really, like you said, like we confirmed, it is actually just a testimony to how intense, how evil, how heinous eras of humanity throughout history have become and have been. So when we go into the title track itself, is it just that? Is it just the back of the book summary? Or like, was there a certain reason that you chose Testimony as the name of this song, as well as the rest of the record? Let's go ahead and dive into it.
Instrumentally, when I wrote the guitar part or the guitars for Testimony, like the song, I wanted it to sound like a send off, like this is the last hurrah. Like when that first chord hits, it's like this might be the last song of the album, like it sounds like it's ending kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of what the vibe we were going towards. And yeah, it was a whole emotionally, again, instrumentally wrap up of the album, like saddening send off, just like this is the shit that happened.
Farewell for now, my friends.
Yeah, until soon. But lyrically, this one's definitely geared more towards religion. Just like I've had people in my life too, and friends, just like had lived their life on how they should be as a person and how they felt internally, and just like seeing even parents that people that grew up that I've known like for a long time, just like every aspect of my life, just like have different opinions on people based on just like who they are as a person, based on only because what someone says in a book. Like you've known this person your whole life, and all of a sudden like they think a certain way or feel a certain way, like like that is just crazy to me. So I think that's a lot what that was geared towards too. And if also a big thing I harped on lyrically in that one too is like if we keep this up, like humanity is destined for failure. Like she's just like not gonna end well. So
yeah, seriously.
You have to learn from like history repeats itself, unfortunately, but you just, especially like the shit that's going on now, just with everyday life, but just like, gotta pay attention to that shit. And, like you can learn from that, and I just try to like sit back and listen and observe and take stuff. So you can do that in real life too, and change who you are as a person, or I guess like feel a certain way or act accordingly to make things better and not be like how things have been in the past on the entire rest of the album.
Yeah, no, seriously. And of course, me being me, I have to ask, what was the decision behind Devin Duarte featuring on this title track to wrap up the album?
So we were only expecting 2 features on this album, and we had Derek and Devin already in mind.
Right.
But
I can still hear you.
We were like, okay. We had a couple other people in mind too. We were like, okay, who's gonna fit because we didn't write it to a specific person to want to be that person in that part.
Yeah.
We like wrote a part, and then it was like, okay, what person would sound good behind this? And James and Derek, like they have like an internet friendship, so I'm pretty sure that they're pretty close. So we got a hookup on him doing a feature, and he's just everyone knows, like if you heard the guy, he's just brutal. Like it's you listen to the song, you listen to any of Nithful, it's just like hard. So that was no question. And he brought a lot of like emotion to that part too, just like big nuts. Same thing with Devin. Just like I think Testimony in the intro to The Persecution were definitely like songs like I was big into Worm Shepherd at the time, and just like kind of fitting that vibe, or just like that like blackened like ending vibe. And I think that we left it open. There's not much going on. There's just a lot of China maybe a snare and just a lot of like open guitar string hitting, and just like let Devin do his thing and just kill it. And then with DJ, it was just the same situation the situation I said, where we only had 2 features. They were done. We were in the studio recording the vocals for the album, and then he was just chilling at the studio. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna hop on this song, and it just worked out perfectly. So that one was just luck. You're muted.
Your microphone is shut off again.
Okay, so shout out to everybody who featured on this record, as they are people we've also hosted on the podcast before. So this album feels like very, very it feels very connected with the podcast and just like what we've been doing. The reason I've been working my ass off when I can for the last 2 or 3 years now, which is insane. But absolutely fantastic record. We'll go ahead and Future Me. That's where the Under the Skin session ends. So end it here. Cool. And as we wrap up episode 53 of the Anatomy podcast with more or less 10 minutes to go, I know that you guys are about to embark onto a tour with another band to promote your album and to just kind of get more familiar with that. I don't know how familiar you guys are with touring. With prior experiences, I know you guys have done music festivals, you've done your hometown shows in which you've sold out to a smaller room. So like, how exciting is it that you guys are finally going to be embarking on like a tour to support Testimony amongst, the other artists on the lineup?
It's very fun, and we have, I don't know when this is coming out, but we have like 6 days until our first show on tour. But it's just been honestly very overwhelming. I can't speak for Dane, but it's like the support and like Spotify streams that we've had since we released Testimony like 3 days ago is just honestly insane. And getting people's reactions online and like seeing people in the support online that coming to the shows is very fun. I've never like done a full tour like this before. We've done a run in last December. That was very, very fun. That was like a 3-day run, but this is our like first like headlining tour where we're just head around the Midwest. So
Right.
Never done it before, nothing like it. So I'm just excited for all of the people to come out and hopefully have a good time.
Dude, seriously. And that's sometimes at the end of the day, that's the payoff, because the music industry, we all know this, even without you guys embarking on your first tour to support your own album. We all know that the music industry can be considerably ruthless when it comes to financial return. So sometimes at the end of the day, all that matters is that people come out, some of them buy merch, they all bought the ticket, obviously, and that they love what they hear, and they hope to support you guys as you continue down your journey as musicians in Heirs of Humanity. But that'll be the Anatomy Crosscast part 53, or episode 53, year 3, which is insane. And as we always say over on the Sean Cross channel, just like the great eternal music machine, because it never fucking stops, not for no one. We got to keep cranking. So let's keep cranking. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you both for your time in being a part of this, telling your stories, talking about this new album. And we will all see you next time.